Nick, I wanted to sit down and talk with you because you're on tonight's episode.
Always a pleasure,
And
Rachel.
always a pleasure, always a pleasure. Shout out to Nick Viall, who I talk about in the article as my favorite ex. Did they give you that title?
I saw that, and
I love to
honestly,
say that.
Likewise.
But I wanted to talk to you because you're in tonight's episode and you're doing a little bit of group therapy. Can you take me through that? Because I know you secretly loved this. I would.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the producers when they asked me to come on, of having me pitch some ideas, and I was like, listen, I've been in this world long enough that you know how it works, Rachel. Where it's just like everyone's gonna come in with like, this is what I want to talk about myself, and these are my strengths and weaknesses. And by the way, you want to hear my sad story that's gonna endear me to America? And I was like, yeah, that's great, but I'm more interested in some of your red flags. Everyone has them. We all bring them to the table. Quite frankly, if you can't own up to any red flags, I'm more worried about you as a person and your ability to learn. And so in that world, like everyone's just afraid. I know, I'm sure you were, I was, I'm sure Katie is. We're just like, who are these people? You hear a lot of people say a lot of really nice things, a lot of platitudes. And so I showed up and kind of put the fear of God in them and said, and it's true, right? Like, listen, I don't know where you're at, and if you're feeling feelings for Katie, she needs to hear your truth from you, not someone else, and it's always going to come out. It always comes out. There's certainly plenty of examples of past contestants avoiding their truth, having it come out on social media, things like that, and the guys really embraced it and stepped up to the plate and shared some pretty heartfelt stories.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. We've seen the teaser for tonight's episode, and it looks like one of the guys is really struggling in what he's going to say. Were you able to get a lot of them to open up and be honest with Katie about some of their not so great moments in relationships?
I think overall the guys stepped up. Some more than others. Some of the guys, were in a very long-winded way. You could tell they were trying to like maybe bring some tears up, and they were just. And I really just wanted to be like, just admit you're an F-boy. Just come out and say it, man. But overall, I do think the guys stepped up. I only met, I think, 9 of them. They seemed like a overall good group of guys. And in all seriousness, they really embraced the date. And it is a challenging situation. They don't know what's going on, and they didn't have to say anything, and they did. So I applaud them.
Can you give us some of the topics maybe that are addressed in tonight's group therapy?
There's some infidelity. There's some substance abuse stuff. There's a lot of vagueness about, like, again, just say you were kind of an F-boy.
Yeah.
And then obviously, and then Katie, decided after all the guys were done, she shared a very extremely vulnerable story that I don't think anyone expected. And that really wasn't the focus. The date was for me to have the guys share. Katie embraced that moment and shared an incredibly personal story. And that's all I'll say, just because it's Katie's story, not mine. And she was very brave and showed a lot of courage in doing so.
Wow. Well, I'm looking forward to that in tonight's episode as well. Do you think that just Katie being able to open up and the guys opening up really is going to help Katie throughout her journey?
I think so. That was my hope, right? I mean, I didn't stick around. I left, so I have no idea about the fallout. But the truth really, does set you free. I think it's going to. I think my guess is, and that's one bit of advice I told Katie, is like, just pay attention to people's answers, right? And then ask follow-up questions. And I think a lot of what was discussed on this date will give Katie a lot of questions to ask these guys, questions that don't usually come up that early on.
Yeah.
And I think my hope is that it added value, and that it will be a catalyst for many conversations throughout the rest of the season.
Well, I know you'll be giving much more detail when you can on your podcast, The Viall Files, which is doing incredibly well. I see it because it beats me in ratings every single week. Who is your dream guest to interview other than myself as soon as I'm contractually able to do so?
You're always welcome. You've always been one of my favorite guests. You're easy to talk to, truly, Rachel, and my audience loves it. Malcolm Gladwell has always been someone I've wanted to have on. I just have a mad crush on Brad Pitt. So
we all
like,
do.
I think that would be so much fun to just be like, talk about how cool he is. So, I think those are two that come to mind. I don't know if I'd be the best interview with Brad, because I would just feel like you're so cool. But yeah, and I have Andy Grammer on this week, and
he's great.
He was fantastic, so fun to talk to, such an insightful guy. He's got some new music on, so yeah, I think those two come to mind. But there's so many fun guests that I would be very thankful to interview, but none more than you, Rachel.
Oh, thank you so much. Listen, I had an article come out, which I know we talked about before, a New York Magazine article. Just wondering if you had a chance to read it in your thoughts, because I definitely talk about you in the article. Positively, of course.
Thank you for calling me your favorite ex. I'm happy to give you that title as well. I think, it's we never cross the threshold of have anything but positive things to say to each other. But, Rachel, you've always been a friend of mine. I've always admired your courage. It's not easy to challenge the status quo. Certainly, I know a little bit about that, but you have such a unique perspective as the first Black Bachelorette. It's not easy to do. I love some of your quotes in there, and there's a lot of truth to, Bachelor Nation is something I've always been thankful for.
Right.
But there's a problematic side to parts of Bachelor Nation, and they fear change, and sometimes they can be cruel, and it's not fun to necessarily enjoy, and sometimes Bachelor Nation tends to reward things that they're comfortable with, and they tend to reward people who just look the part, in terms of just not saying anything. And I don't mean necessarily physical appearance, but
sure,
just not saying anything. So you shared a lot of perspective. I encourage people to read it, and I think challenging things that are out there will always lead to positive change. So that's my
Well, thank you so much. See, this is why you're my favorite. Okay, Nick, I will let you go. I know you got to go. Thank you so much for stopping by extra.
I'll tell you, let's double date soon.
No, we're going on a double date. Yes, we're making it happen.
Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.